and gentlemen, welcome back. This is CJP UFC Bets here with Monique. Thanks for joining us here tonight for another great breakdown. Here to break down UFC 287, Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya 2. That should be another great fight, another great card to break down. But first, let's address what happened last night on UFC Fight Night, San Antonio Vera versus Sanhagen. I know you got a lot to say, Monique, so go right ahead.
Yeah, yesterday's card was controversial to say the least, but there were a few fights that I was really happy with. The CJ Vergara fight, that comeback was pretty sweet in the second round. He got that TKO, that was really cool to watch. And then Pineda with the guillotine sub, like I said, what happened? He was, I believe, I think he was the dog that I picked last week. I'm not too sure, but he was definitely one of the underdogs that I betted. So I was really happy with the outcome of that. But I wasn't happy with the whole Macy Barber Andrea Lee fight because I even saw the total significant strikes. Andrea Lee edged her out by a couple of percent on the total significant strikes, and she had more control time. She was 5 for 5 on her takedowns. And so I was really disappointed that Dan Miragliotta, out of all people, judged that fight 30-27 for Barber. So what did you think about that, Carlos? Did you agree with what he said? Did you agree that it was a robbery for Lee?
I agree it was robbery. Lee clearly won that fight, but I'm kind of happy that Macy Barber won picking wise because I did pick her to win the fight, so I was right about that one. I did go out of 10 out of picks because they did cancel like 3, 4 fights, I think. And yeah, 5 out of 10, that's not too great. I've been totally crappy on my picks. But it changes with this card with UFC 287. I promise you guys, I have a great read on these fights. I have a great breakdown for you guys. So I hope you stay tuned and make sure to subscribe. Make sure to like us, share us, and tell everyone you know about CJP UFC bets because you know what, Monique? My dog of the card hit for me. I told you guys that Albert Duraev was going to win that fight. I told you he was going to use his grappling. I told you he was going to use his wrestling. And if the fight was going to get to the ground, Albert Duraev was going to dominate and win this fight. What'd you think about that fight?
Yeah, no, I had to rewatch it because I was out yesterday with a family event. So I thought that Chidi didn't really do much. I think his output was like 30% when it comes to strikes, or 30 strikes in general compared to Duraev. And then he got those takedowns, which was really impressive. So can't be mad at that, at the end of the day, even though I picked Chidi. So good on Duraev, and good for you for picking him.
Absolutely. I told you I had a good read on that fight. Duraev wins. And to me, Chidi Njokuani is a little bit overrated. He's not that good in my book. I mean, he's got good power and he can knock just about anyone out. But if he faces a good grappler, a good wrestler like Duraev, he's not going to win the fight. And for that reason, he's not going to become champion in that division. So let's move on to the main event. Cheeto Marlon Vera versus Corey Sandhagen. Cheeto Vera got dominated. I gotta say, I got a horrible read on that fight. I really thought that Vera was gonna go in there and do what he does, take his time in the first round or two, and then take over from there. But no, not even close. Sanhagen was totally in control that whole fight. And I give my hats off to Corey Sanhagen. He is still a problem and someone to look out for in that division. What'd you think about that fight, Monique?
Yeah, of course I saw that Sanhagen dominated. It was pretty obvious he picked Cheeto Vera apart. And not only that, there was controversy in the scoring because someone gave Cheeto Vera 3 rounds. And the name is in my head, but I don't want to butcher it, so I'm not going to say who it is. But basically, that was ridiculous. As much as I wanted Cheeto Vera to win, he definitely didn't win 3 rounds, that's for sure. He might have won 1 round in either the third or the fourth round, maybe, but not 3 rounds. So that was pretty shitty, judging if I do say so myself. So that was what it was for that. But hats off to Corey Sandhagen, like you said. Definitely a problem. He's so technical, and it's going to be very hard to stop him, that's for sure.
And there is rumors going around that Corey Sandhagen versus Davlashvili might happen down the road. And that should be the number one contender match. And if that fight happens, that's going to be a very, very great fight. Early lean, I'm going to say Davlashvili because he looks so phenomenal against Petr Yan. And I don't see anyone stopping that anytime soon. So, yeah, let's get right into it. For this breakdown, UFC 287, the big pay-per-view that everyone has been waiting for, Pereira versus Adesanya 2. And then we have in the co-main event, Burns versus Masvidal. Before we do the breakdown, I want to get your early take on this pay-per-view card.
Yeah, it was actually really stacked if you look at it. Obviously, the prelims have a few people that I kind of question, like the belt order at which they're at, like Michael Chiesa being near the bottom. It kind of surprises me, but it is what it is. There are a few killers out there, and there's up and coming fighters like Rosas Jr., who is up there in the main card, which is really surprising. I guess I could see him being like a headliner for the prelims, but not necessarily, in the main card. I think this is his second fight in the UFC or something like that, right? So that was very surprising to me, but I understand, like, he's very flashy. He's the hottest thing right now, so this is why Dana White kind of put him right there.
So let's get right into it, folks. UFC 287, Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya. All right, ladies and gentlemen, happening on April 8th. We do have a 2-week layoff for UFC. April 8th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time for the prelims, 10 p.m. Eastern Time for the main card. This should be a banger card, ladies and gentlemen. The first fight of the night, scheduled in the men's heavyweight division. We have Chris Barnett versus Chase Sherman. Chris Barnett, he's 23-8, 36 years old, 5'9", with a 75-inch reach. Then we have Chase Sherman. He's 16'11", 33 years old, 6'4", with a 78-inch reach. For Chris Barnett, he has decent striking with solid KO power in his hands, and he is very athletic for his size. He's got okay wrestling with okay takedowns and decent cardio. He also has a solid chin and likes to throw big bombs, and he can be wild at times looking to knock out his opponent. He also likes to throw spinning wheel kicks and just spinning attacks in general, and he's very fun to watch. For Chase Sherman, he's got pretty decent boxing, solid footwork, and speed. He has pretty solid volume on the feet and a decent takedown defense. He throws decent ones and twos, but he can be hittable at times, and he basically has no head movement whatsoever. He is tough, and he has enough cardio to go all 3 rounds, but I don't think that'll be enough for him here. I'm going with the dog, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Barnett by knockout. Who are you going for, Monique?
Yeah, I definitely have the dog in this one, no doubt about it. I mean, Chris Barnett, he's so flashy. He's more well-rounded for a heavyweight, that I would like for a fighter. I like his style a lot. The only problem I have with him is his record. He's very inconsistent. He's kind of like back and forth with wins and losses. So that kind of concerns me. But he is called Beast Boy for a reason. You've seen some of his wins. They're really cool. And with Chase Sherman, I'm really surprised in this one that he is the favorite. When I did my show with Cell the other day, we were very surprised to look at the the odds for this one. So yeah, okay, fine, he has the power advantage, but he's had losses to Parker Porter, Andrei Arlovski, which is a little bit concerning. So that's why I pick Chris Barnett to win this fight.
I'm so glad that we're starting off on a good page and picking the same fighter. Let's go, Chris Barnett. I like Beastie Boy here. So Chase Sherman, he's not that UFC caliber in my opinion. Look at that. He's lost the last 4 out of his 5 fights, and Chris
Mhm.
Barnett, like you said, he's wishy-washy. So give me the wishy-washy fighter here in Chris Barnett. Let's go. All right, let's move on up to the next fight on the card, ladies and gentlemen. Scheduled in the women's strawweight division, we have Sam Hughes versus Jaqueline Amorim. Sam Hughes, she's 7'5", 30 years old, 5'5", with a 64.5-inch reach. Then we have Jaqueline Amorim. She's undefeated at 6-0, 27 years old, 5'3", with a 67.5-inch reach. For Sam Hughes, she's got decent striking and she's very aggressive and likes to push the pace in her fights. She has decent grappling, decent takedowns, and okay wrestling. Her takedown defense and takedown accuracy are nothing to write home about, but she is a pretty tough girl with a decent chin and good cardio. For Amorim, she's got very solid grappling, decent takedowns, and good submissions. She has pretty decent KO power with good pressure on the feet and decent volume to go with it. She also has a decent ground game, decent top control, and decent wrestling. She's a pretty well-rounded fighter and good anywhere the fight goes. I have to go with Jacqueline Amorim by decision or maybe even a knockout. I do see that happening here. Who are you going for, Monique?
This is surprising, Carlos. We are going 2 for 2 right now because I also have Amorim winning. Her BJJ is just insane. She has that finishing power. I mean, that's kind of like two of my favorite things that I look for besides fight IQ. So the fact that I'm choosing her, it's pretty obvious why. I can see her actually getting Hughes in a sub. Now, the thing is with Sam Hughes, she was fed to Tisha Torres in one of her first few UFC fights. So I kind of feel bad for the girl because she was fed to the lions, and that kind of, builds up a lot of character and heart and determination for her. So I don't think she's going to win this fight, but she has a lot of things going for her in terms of like the elbows, the decision wins, the sub guillotines that she's had. So I just think that Amorim has the edge in this one. She has pretty much everything that I look for in a fighter that would win a fight. So going for Amorim.
Let's go 2 for 2 on this card, ladies and gentlemen. That's a good sign. Let's move on up to the next fight on the card. Scheduled in the men's welterweight division, we have Michael Chiesa versus Jingliang Li. Michael Chiesa, he's 16-6, 36 years old, 6'1", with a 75.5-inch reach. Then we have Jingliang. He's 19-8, 35 years old, 6 foot, with a 72-inch reach. Trying to get rid of this damn stupid, crappy ad right there. I'm sorry, guys. There you go. Can't even get rid of it, but that's okay. Michael Chiesa, he's got decent striking, and he likes to pressure forward at his opponents to work for takedowns. He does have solid takedowns, solid wrestling, and a decent ground game. He's got pretty solid body locks and trips with solid pressure if he gets you to the ground. He also has pretty good ground and pound with sneaky submissions and good cardio to go with it. For Li Jingliang, he's got solid boxing, good volume on the feet, and a decent amount of KO power. He throws solid ones and twos with pretty decent combinations on the feet. He has okay takedown defense, but he's definitely going to need that here in this fight. He also has a solid gas tank and a decent enough chin to go all 3 rounds. This should be a very close fight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going with the dog once again, Li Jingliang, in this fight, and the reason I'm picking him is due to the inactivity of Michael Chiesa. The last time he fought was like a year and 3 months ago against Sean Brady, and he's lost the last 2 of his fights. So give me the more active, more fresher fighter, and Li Jingliang. Who are you going for, Monique?
See, I knew our, trend wouldn't last too long, Carlos. I'm going for the dog. No, sorry, I'm not going for the dog. I'm going for the lock on this one because it's just I saw Lee kind of, with what happened with Khamzat Chimaev, and I feel like something similar is going to happen again in this fight. I understand a lot of fighters, they learn from their mistakes. It's just that I think that Chiesa's going to pressure forward and get the takedown really easily, and that's how he's going to win this fight. I understand he's been inactive for a year and 3 months, and his last loss to Brady was pretty terrible. Brady took his back, and got the win pretty much because of that. So it really concerns me. It's just that I feel like he has to shoot the takedown. There's no other way he's gonna win this fight against Leach. Leach hits hard. He, like you said, he has pretty decent cardio and really good striking, but he doesn't have the best luck with grapplers, and that's the reason why I'm picking Chiesa to win this fight.
I was going back and forth on this fight, to be honest. Like I said, it was going to be a close fight. I'm not going to have no money line bets. I just liked Li Jiang better than Michael Chiesa, but should be a close one and it should be a good scrap for sure. Let's go up to the next fight, ladies and gentlemen. Scheduled in the men's middleweight division, we have Gerald Meerschaert versus Joseph Pyfer. Gerald Meerschaert, he's 35 and 15, 35 years old, 6'1", with a 77.5-inch reach. And then we have Joseph Pyfer. He's 10 and 2, 26 years old, 6'2", with a 75-inch reach. For Gerald Meerschaert, he's got very good grappling with solid wrestling and solid takedowns. His striking is okay, but he can be hittable at times and he is chinny. He's got pretty good submissions and a decent ground game. Not to mention, he will definitely have the more experience in this fight by far. For Joseph Pyfer, he's got solid striking with a ton of KO power with a good amount of pressure on the feet. He's got pretty good BJJ and decent takedowns. His takedown defense is just okay, but he's got a mean ground and pound, and he's also got a good finishing ability with a killer instinct. He's still young and getting better as his career goes on. I gotta go with Joseph Body Bags Pyfer by knockout or TKO in this fight. Who are you going for, Monique?
And just like that, the tables have turned. We are back on track, Carlos. I have Pyfer winning this fight. He's on a 4-fight win streak, and it's obviously super great. However, we saw Marlon Vera was also on a 4-fight win streak, and you know what happened with him. Not saying the same thing is going to happen in this fight. Now, you did touch on the fact that he has pretty decent takedown defense, really good BJJ, and solid striking. With GM3, it's just that you know, yeah, okay, fine. He has wins against Bruno Silva. He's had his submissions like the rear naked choke and the guillotines that we've seen on other opponents. But he's been hit really easily, and I can see Viper hitting him really hard and knocking him out, just like you said. So definitely give me Viper in this round or this fight. And I'm going for the lock for sure.
Absolutely, let's go. I like Pyfer. He's one of my locks as well, and I got him in one of my parlays. Let's move on up to the next fight, ladies and gentlemen. And this one should be a banger. We have Kelvin Gastelum versus Chris Curtis. Kevin Gastelum, he's 17 and 8, 31 years old, 5'9", with a 71.5-inch reach. Then we have Chris Curtis. He's 30 and 9, 35 years old, 5'10", with a 75.5-inch reach. For Kevin Gastelum, he's got solid striking with solid KO power in his hands, and he's got good grappling with good wrestling. He's also got pretty solid takedowns with good cardio, and he's got an iron chin. He can be pretty inconsistent at times, which does worry me a bit, but he is pretty tough, and he can hang in there with the best of them. For Chris Curtis, he's got pretty good striking, a high amount of volume on the feet, and solid KO power. He's got good boxing, decent leg kicks, and he's got a pretty good takedown defense. He's got nice, short, clean punches, good strikes to the body, and he also has solid cardio and a decent chin to go with it. I have to go with the dog here. I'm going with Chris Action Man Curtis by knockout. Give me Chris Curtis. Who are you going for, Monique?
Give me Chris Curtis because I am on your side again. The Action Man, I mean, he has wins against Buckley and Brendan Allen, which are super impressive. He gets those punches, those knees going, that ground and pound. I can definitely see him winning actually by decision in this fight because Gastelum has that chin, so I don't think he's going to be finished easily. That's for sure. Now, the thing with Gastelum is that he's on like some type of 3 or 4 fight losing streak right now, and so there's going to be a sense of urgency for him fighting. The path to victory for him is probably to shoot for a takedown early in this fight. But I think that Chris Curtis is probably going to try to stuff that really easily, and then Gastelum is probably going to be stuck. throughout the duration of this fight. So, yeah, I'm on your side right now for most of these fights so far. It's funny because usually we go back and forth, but right now I have Chris Curtis, and I don't think I'm going to change my mind.
There you go, folks. Another fight that we agree on, Chris Curtis to win that fight. Let's move on up to the next fight, ladies and gentlemen. Scheduled in the men's featherweight division, we have Steve Garcia versus Shayilan Nuerdanbieke. Steve Garcia, he's 13-6, 30 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach. Shayilan Nuerdanbieke, he is 39-10, 28 years old, 5'8" with a 69-inch reach. For Steve Garcia, this guy is a pretty solid, pretty much everywhere the fight goes. He's got solid striking, solid grappling, and solid takedowns. He's got pretty decent boxing, and he likes to pressure forward on the feet with pretty heavy shots. He also has decent wrestling with a pretty good takedown defense and decent enough cardio to go all 3 rounds. For Nuerdanbieke, this guy has so much experience at such a young age with almost 50 fights at 28 years old. He's got very solid grappling, pretty decent striking, and he likes to pressure forward as opponents while throwing heavy strikes. He's got pretty solid cage control and decent takedowns. Not to mention, he's got a nice top pressure with a good ground and pound. I have to go with the more experienced fighter here. Give me Shayilan Nuerdanbieke inside the distance. Who are you going for, Monique?
This might be the most consistent card that we've ever done because I also have Shayilan to win this fight. I mean, not only is he the more experienced fighter, but he just, for my opinion, has the more well-rounded game. He has those elbows, that sub ability, that BJJ. Obviously, we've seen him do a rear naked choke, an arm triangle, which is one of my favorites to do. So I can definitely see him getting the sub over Garcia in this fight. That's for sure.
I like that pick. Let's go. We're still on the same page. I think we only picked one fight that we haven't agreed on.
Yeah, that's surprising for us.
Let's move on up to the next fight, ladies and gentlemen. Scheduled in the women's strawweight division, we have Michelle Waterson-Gomez versus Luana Pinheiro. Michelle Waterson-Gomez, she's 18-10, 37 years old, 5'3" with a 62-inch reach. Then we have Luana Pinheiro. She's 10-1, 29 years old, 5'4" with a 62-inch reach. For Michelle Waterson-Gomez, she will definitely have the more experience in this fight, and she's definitely fought the tougher competition. She's got pretty slick striking with nice kicks, and she uses her distance very well in her fights. She has decent wrestling, okay takedowns, and a respectable takedown defense. She also has pretty good toughness and won't give up in any of her fights. For Pinheiro, she has solid striking and a good amount of KO power in her hands. She has decent wrestling, decent takedowns, and a pretty solid takedown accuracy. She has a pretty good volume on the feet, decent grappling, and not to mention her cardio is good enough to go all 3 rounds. This should be a very close fight. I have to go with Luana Pinheiro by decision. I think Michelle Gomez is tough enough to last all 3 rounds. I might be wrong. She might get knocked out, but either way, Luana Pinheiro is my pick. Who are you going for, Monique?
I have the same pick that you have, but I don't think there's going to be a KO because Waterson-Gomez is really tough. You've seen her in multiple fights. She has the better resume, sure. She's coming off 2 losses. One of them is to Marina Rodriguez. She's had a few decision wins here and there, and she has her karate, her kicks that are going to serve her well in this fight. I just think that Pinheiro is more well-rounded. She does everything just a little bit better. She's on a 2-fight win streak right now in the UFC, but overall she's on an 8-fight win streak if you actually look at Tapology. Her punches are really solid. Her subs that are really fun to watch, in my opinion, but I don't think that she's going to get Waterson-Gomez in a sub. I think she's going to win by decision and just keep striking and probably take her down a few times, test her ability on the ground.
But we're still on the same page. Another pick that we agree on. I like this. I like where this is going. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on up to the next fight on the card. Let me just get myself situated with my notes here. They always move the card about order on me. I hate when that happens.
Hmm.
All right. Sorry, guys. There's like 14 fights on this card. I found it. Here we go. All right. Scheduled to be the prelim fight of the night is Cynthia Calvillo versus Lupita Godinez. Cynthia Calvino, she's 9-5, 35 years old, 5'4" with a 64-inch reach. Then we have Lupita Godinez. She's 8-3, 29 years old, 5'2" with a 61-inch reach. For Cynthia Calvillo, she's a pretty well-rounded fighter. She's good everywhere, but not great anywhere. She has decent striking, decent volume on the feet, and decent wrestling. She's got solid takedowns, a pretty good takedown defense, and she will need that in this fight. She also has a sneaky ground game with decent submissions, and she is pretty tough. For Godinez, she's got pretty solid grappling with good wrestling and good takedowns. She's got good striking with nice, clean boxing and a decent amount of KO power. She has a very solid takedown defense, and she's got a pretty good size for this division. She has that bully like style with good cage control. Not to mention, she's got good cardio, and she should be able to dominate this fight. And that's why I have to go with Lupita Godinez by decision. I'm not very confident though because she did lay an egg against what's her name in her last fight, Angela Hill. Angela Hill, she did lay an egg in that fight. She did not look too good, but I do see her bouncing back in this fight. Who you going for, Monique?
Yeah, this is surprising. We are, I don't even know how many fights, like 9 out of 10 or something, that we're on the same page with. So that's very surprising. But I definitely have Loopy winning this fight. I think she wants to get back in the win column. I think it's pretty obvious. She was on a 2-fight win streak before this, before the whole Angela Hill fight. So she's had some decision wins. Her subs are really cool, including an armbar that she did not too long ago. I see her winning by decision. I see her shooting that takedown pretty easily and fast in the first round, and that's pretty much going to be the key to victory for her. So give me Loopy any day.
Absolutely, I do see Loopy winning this fight. Let's move on up to the next fight, ladies and gentlemen. We have made it to the main card. And before we do the breakdown, folks, make sure, do us a favor and subscribe. Subscribe to this channel, CJP UFC Bets. Make sure to like the video, comment on the video. If you're going to talk crap about my picks, make sure to post your picks. Post your dog of the card. Post your lock of the card. Stay tuned for that. At the end of the video, we will reveal our dog of the card and our lock of the card for UFC 287. The next fight on the card is scheduled in the men's welterweight division. We have Kelvin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. Kelvin Holland. He's 23-9, 30 years old, 6'3", with a 81-inch reach. Then we have Santiago Ponzinibbio. He's 29-6, 36 years old, 6 foot, with a 73-inch reach. For Kelvin Holland, he's got very solid striking, and he's pretty accurate with his striking, with nice long jabs to sting his opponents. He's got solid KO power in his hands, but a pretty bad takedown defense to say the least. He's got takedowns of his own, which are okay, but he's definitely got solid grappling. He also has pretty good jiu-jitsu and a pretty good gas tank to go all 3 rounds. For Ponzinibbio, he's got pretty good striking with a high amount of volume. He likes to manage range and does it pretty well throughout the fight with a ton of pressure on the feet. He has a decent takedown defense with okay takedowns, but a pretty bad takedown accuracy. Not to mention, he's pretty damn tough, and we keep coming forward in his fights. This should be a very exciting fight, ladies and gentlemen. But give me Kelvin Holland by decision or maybe even a knockout. Who you going for, Monique?
Yo, man, I am predicting we're gonna be on the same page for the rest of the card. I have a feeling there might be maybe one fight that we disagree on for this main card, but I have a feeling we're going to go off strong. So I do have Kevin Holland winning. The Trailblazer has insane BJJ that he doesn't use too often, which I would love to see in this fight because I don't think he wants to stand with Ponzinibbio. I don't think that's a smart idea. I don't think his fight IQ is that bad, to be honest with you. So I can see him, shooting that takedown, and Ponzinibbio, like you said, doesn't have the greatest takedown defense. So I can see that happening. He was on a 4-fight win streak, Kevin Holland, before his last few fights, and I can see him actually getting the sub. That'd be really just my own fantasy talking. I would love to see him, with his BJJ skills, getting that on Ponzinibbio. So I know you probably see this maybe going to decision or something like that, but I definitely want to see this going to a sub.
All right, there you go, folks. Monique wants that sub prop. I wonder what that line's going to be at. But either way, we got Kevin Holland in this fight as a pick. Next fight on the card, ladies and gentlemen, scheduled in the men's bantamweight division. We have Raul Rosas Jr. versus Christian Rodriguez. Raul Rosas Jr. He's undefeated at 7-0, 18 years old, 5'9" with a 67-inch reach. Then we have Christian Rodriguez. He's 8-1, 25 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. For Raul Rosas Jr., he's got very solid grappling with good wrestling and solid takedowns. He's got good submissions, solid top control, and a pretty decent ground game. His ground game is pretty good as he is relentless on the ground and won't stop until he gets the finish. Not to mention, he is still pretty young, still learning, and he's got that star power that the UFC looks for. He's just an up and coming guy to look out for in this division, and he's a very exciting fighter. For Christian Rodriguez, he's got pretty decent striking, solid speed, and movement. He's got decent takedown defense, which he's definitely going to need in this fight. He's got decent submissions, nice leg kicks, and okay takedowns. He also has a pretty decent cardio, decent chin, but I don't think that will be enough for him here. Give me Raul Rosas by decision or maybe even a submission. Who are you going for, Monique?
Yeah, definitely Rosas Jr. El Nino Problema, as many people know him to be. I mean, he's just so relentless. I can definitely see him just getting that takedown eventually. He's probably not going to stop till he gets that takedown, and then probably going to go for one of his subs, whether it's an armbar, a rear naked choke. I don't see this going to decision. I think Rosas Jr. is just so persistent and he's going to get the finish. He's so young. He's only 18. So if the fight goes the other way, he has so much to learn and grow in the sport. So, but I don't see that happening. No offense to C-Rod. Just saying he has some subs of his own. He's had an anaconda choke that he performed. He has that ground and pound ability as well. It's just that I don't see him using that against someone as smart as Rosas Jr. So definitely give me Rosas Jr.
Absolutely. I do see Rosas Jr. coming out with the victory. Let's go. We're still on the same page, folks. Let's go. To the next fight, it's scheduled in the men's bantamweight division. We have Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez, and this fight has the potential to be fight of the night. For Rob Font, he's 19-6, 35 years old, 5'8" with a 71.5-inch reach. Then we have Adrian Yanez. He's 16-3, 29 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. For Rob Font, he's got pretty technical striking with pretty nice sharp jabs and really good boxing. He's got fast hands with a high amount of volume on the feet. He's got okay wrestling with okay takedowns and a decent takedown defense. Not to mention, he's got a solid chin and a good gas tank to go all 3 rounds. For Adrian Yanez, he also has pretty good technical striking with fast hands and a high amount of volume on the feet. He has solid KO power with pretty decent footwork. He could be a slow starter at times, but he is a finisher as he has 5 stoppages in his victories. He also has solid takedown defense and he's willing to go into a war in his fights. Give me Adrian Yanez by decision. I love this kid, and I do see him being a problem in this division. Who you going for, Monique?
Yeah, I love both of them for different reasons. The only thing that made me choose Yanez in this fight is because I think Rob Font is just very not one-dimensional, but he relies on his boxing throughout his match, right? And then when it comes to Yanez, he has just more arsenal like weapons, and basically I can see him with his kicks, you know, putting that distance in between both fighters. He can probably get the takedown because Rob Font isn't really good with his takedown defense, in my opinion. And I can see it maybe going to sub, but most likely going to decision because Rob Font's just really tough to finish in general. So give me Yanez for this fight, that's for sure.
Let's go. We're on the same page again. Adrian Yanez to win this fight, and I do have him in my parlay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on up to the next fight, which is scheduled to be the co-main event of the evening for UFC 287. Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira 2. The co-main event is scheduled to be in the men's welterweight division. We have Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal. Gilbert Burns, he's 21 and 5, 36 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach. Then we have Jorge Masvidal. He's 35 and 16, 38 years old, 5'11", with a 74-inch reach. For Gilbert Burns, he's got very solid grappling, very good BJJ, and he's got good submissions to go with it. He's got decent wrestling, decent takedowns, and an okay takedown defense. He's got decent striking as well, with a solid amount of KO power. Not to mention, he's not afraid to get into a slugfest and get into a war in his fights. He's got a good finishing ability, in my opinion. For Jorge Masvidal, he's got really good striking with very solid boxing and decent wrestling. He's got decent takedowns with a very solid takedown defense. He has pretty decent volume on the feet and sneaky KO power. Not to mention, he's got a pretty solid fight IQ and he's got more experience in this fight. This should be a very fun fight, and I think it's going to be closer than the number says. But I gotta go with Gilbert Burns inside the distance, knockout or submission. Who are you going for, Monique?
See, I had a feeling we are gonna go up to the main event to maybe disagree. I don't disagree with you in this fight. I definitely have Burns. He's definitely the more well-rounded fighter. Jorge Masvidal just has his striking, which is obviously super elite. I'm not gonna kind of criticize him for that. It's just that Gilbert Burns, he's going to shoot the takedown. Pretty obvious. I don't think he's going to strike with Jorge Masvidal for too long. And we've seen him on the ground. He has amazing subs. His BJJ is pretty much, a lot of people deem him as royalty, up there with Damian Maia and up there with Olives, right? So definitely give me Burns for this fight. And I'm very confident that he's going to get it done.
Absolutely. I'm going with Doreno Burns. Let's go. Jorge Masvidal, you're just a journeyman. Let's move on up to the next fight, ladies and gentlemen. Scheduled to be the main event of the evening for UFC 287. But before we do the breakdown, folks, make sure to smash that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, smash that like button for us. CJP UFC Bets on Twitter, CJP UFC Bets on Instagram, and CJP UFC Bets right here on YouTube. Make sure to check us out, subscribe, and support us. And also in the main event, we have Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya 2 for the UFC Middleweight Championship of the World. Alex Pereira, he's 7 and 1. 35 years old, 6'4", with a 80-inch reach. Then we have Israel Adesanya. He's 23 and 2, 33 years old, 6'4", with a 80-inch reach. Both men are virtually identical. For Alex Pereira, he's got a high level kickboxing IQ with a good amount of volume on the feet and a huge amount of KO power in his hands. He's got very good leg kicks, very good body kicks, and very solid stiff jabs. He has a decent takedown defense, and he's got that killer instinct with a good finishing ability if he sees you hurt. He's very fast to pull the trigger. His only downfall, though, is that he slows down throughout the fight. But he still has that KO power in all 5 rounds, and he can end your night at any moment. For Israel Adesanya, he also has a very high level IQ of kickboxing with very good striking and nice long jabs to keep his opponents at bay. He has a pretty good counter striking as well with sneaky KO power. He's got pretty good head movement, solid footwork, and very good cardio. He's got a solid chin, and not to mention, he's got a solid takedown defense. Like I said, he's got a very high fight IQ, one of the smartest fighters in the UFC. We all know that Alex Pereira has knocked out Israel Adesanya twice in his career. He also won by decision in a kickboxing fight. So Alex Pereira is 3-0 against Israel Adesanya. Most would say that Alex Pereira has his number, right? And I agree. Alex Pereira is a great fighter, and I did pick him in my last breakdown. But I have a feeling. I have this feeling. My head and my gut has this feeling that Israel Adesanya is gonna win by decision. Who you going for, Monique?
You know, it's funny because I had him, like Alex Pereira, picked for my last breakdown with Cell just recently. Cell picked his boy, Izzy Adesanya, right? And then I thought about it. I think that Pereira does have his number, but I have this gut feeling like you do that Izzy is going to win by points. He's going to get the decision win. I don't know if I'm going to change my pick, to be honest with you. I think I'm going to stick with Alex Pereira because, I don't know, there's some fighters that for some reason they have that one person that they can't beat, right? Some fighters, not all. And I think that Alex Pereira is that fighter for Izzy Adesanya. But Adesanya, if he makes this kind of like a more boring fight, to either try to take him down, win by points, that kind of thing, then I think he's going to win this fight. But I still think that Pereira has his number, so I'm going to stick with Pereira in this fight.
If before that TKO victory, I'm sure you watched that fight.
Yes.
Izzy was winning that fight.
Yes, I know.
So if this fight goes to decision,
mm-hmm.
I'm telling you right now, guys, Israel Adesanya is going to win, and we're going to see a trilogy fight at Madison Square Garden. That's going to be my little prediction for the future. We're going to have a trilogy for this fight once and for all. They're going to decide it, and that's when we're going to know who the real king of the middleweight division is.
Mm-hmm.
But for this fight, I specifically am going to say Israel Adesanya wins by decision 29-28, 29-28, and 29-28. The winner by unanimous decision, Israel Adesanya. And ladies and gentlemen, that was our breakdown for UFC 287 Pereira versus Adesanya going down on April 8th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. or 10 p.m. Eastern Time for the main card. But don't go away, folks. We're still going to do our dog of the card and our lock of the card for UFC 287 coming up right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is CJP UFC Bets with my co-host Monique, here to reveal our dog of the card for UFC 287. But before we do that, make sure to smash that subscribe button, smash that like button, comment on this video who your dog of the card is. My dog of the card for UFC 287 is Chris Barnett. He's my dog of the card. I think he's going to get it done, folks. He's going to beat Chase Sherman by knockout or TKO. Who are you going for, Monique, as your dog of the card?
Guess what? I have the same dog of the card. I had a feeling this was gonna
Oh,
happen. I had a huge feeling this was gonna happen. Yeah, I definitely think he's gonna beat Chase Sherman. I just don't think that Sherman's like UFC caliber. I know he's been back and forth with the UFC before, and I just think that Chris Barnett has what it takes to beat him, whether it's gonna be a finish, whether it's by decision. I can definitely see him winning. So yeah, me and Carlos on the same page for some reason on this fight card.
let's go. Dog of the card is got to be Chris Barnett for both of us. And now, coming up is our dog of the card for UFC 287 right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is CJP UFC Bets here to reveal our lock of the card for UFC 287. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to like the video, share the video. And before we do our lock of the card, I want Monique to do your little spiel, if you would say, where our friends can find you.
Yeah, so if you want to find me on my personal channels, you can follow me on Twitter at Monique Yip, that's my name, and also on Facebook at Monique Sarah Yip, as well as on Instagram at FemFatal88. And then if you want to find me on my show, Fights Unwrapped, that is on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, as well as on Twitter, it'll be Fights USN.
There you go, folks. Go follow my friend Monique on all of her platforms. My lock of the card for UFC 287 is Joseph Body Bags Pyfer. I think he's going to get that knockout victory or TKO against Gerald Meerschaert. Body bags all the way for my lock of the card. Who's your lock of the card, Monique?
My lock of the card is different from yours. I was going to be surprised if we got both of ours the same, but my lock of the card is Gilbert Durinho Burns winning against Jorge Masvidal. I just think that he's going to get it done. Doesn't matter how, decision, sub. He's going to take him down. He's going to finish him or, win by decision. So any way, shape, or form, he's going to win this fight no matter what. I'm very confident in that.
Well, there you go, folks. You can parlay that if you would like. Pyfer with Burns. I'm not sure what that number would give you. Probably not that good, but I think Pyfer was like a minus 175 last time I checked. So you might get a good number on that parlay. Who knows? But there you go, folks. My lock of the card, Joe Pyfer, and for Monique, Gilbert Burns. Make sure to join us again. We're taking a break, folks, because UFC is not coming back until after this pay-per-view. So we'll do a breakdown after the pay-per-view, April 9th, I believe. We'll do our next breakdown. So make sure to join us for that. Go join my friend Monique on her platforms. Go check her out and make sure to subscribe. We're out of here, folks.